Hello, and welcome to another episode of Activating Greatness, the show where we dig into what it really takes to lead with purpose, inspire performance, and create lasting impact. As always, I'm your host, Alec McChesney, and every episode we sit down with leaders, thinkers, and changemakers who are unlocking potential in themselves, their teams, and their organizations. Here, we talk about the real stuff: leadership that drives culture, strategy that creates momentum, and the mindset that turns good intentions into game-changing results. Because greatness, it isn't a title, it's a choice. It's something you activate every single day. And I'm ready to just dive into today's guest. Today's guest is Addison Watson, Chief Partnership Officer and General Counsel at ClickFunnels, a deal maker, an entrepreneur, and founder of Tees and Clees, a fresh take on legal networking and continuing education. Addison has completed over 1 billion in transactions across industries including telemedicine, SaaS, sports betting, energy, and e-commerce. He works directly with founders to scale and exit businesses while navigating complex legal landscapes with business-friendly risk mitigation. But beyond the transactions and titles, Addison is obsessed with one thing: relationships. In a world increasingly shaped by AI and automation, he believes your ability to build real, trusted, meaningful relationships is what makes you truly indispensable. And today's conversation is going to be about presence. It's going to be about intentionality, over delivering, and why human connection will always outpace the algorithm. So that sets us up. Also, I had maybe one or two extra cocktails at Addison's wedding like 4 years ago. So there's always that connection. But Addison, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I get in with a bunch of questions, why don't you do us a favor and give us a little bit more of an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to, Alec. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for reminding me to Venmo request you for $40 for those cocktails. Those weren't free, brother. Those were mine. No, you covered a lot of it, man. My legal practice has been through a lot of different changes, and they've all been for the better. A lot of it is based on the ability to create long-term, long-standing relationships, and that's why my roles, it's changed from director of legal to head of legal to general counsel to chief partnership officer and general counsel. So it's not often that you see the lawyer of a company kind of like out and about mingling with people instead of just being locked in the closet with no windows. But it's happened for me and I love it. So I'm super pumped to get here, talk about relationships, and really you don't have to be a lawyer, but if you're, any kind of professional role, you can always be building those relationships. And I'm a prime example of that as somebody who loves contracts. I like when people don't talk to me at times. I like to be able to focus and do my thing. But there's also that time where you can get outside of your comfort zone and develop a new skill. And especially nowadays, people are going to have to start doing that because these knowledge-based roles only are going to cease to exist. So you're going to see a lot more of these hybrid situations. That goes super in depth into what we're going to talk about today. But I do want to introduce that topic of just not being so specialized that this development of AI brings you under a certain umbrella that gets automated and replaced. So I'll kick that back over to you because your intro was so strong. I'm so excited to be here, man. And I'm looking forward to talking about leadership and how to build relationships.
Well, I love your initial answer just to that, like, let's get started, and you bring in any role is relevant for this conversation, whether you are a lawyer or maybe you work in HR or you're a data analyst. I think there's so much of this that we haven't had a conversation like this yet on the Activating Greatness podcast around AI specifically. And AI is, for better or for worse, not going anywhere. It is here. It's here to stay. And it's something that I can't go a week without having one of our clients ask us at Velocity, how does this help on your guys' sales training programs? Or how do we start managing, relationships internally? And, how do we use AI to, maybe speed up and become more efficient with day-to-day HR tasks? So I think this conversation about relationships and how relationships make you indispensable within the world of AI is going to be applicable not only in your realm, but also really for anybody who's listening to this that maybe has a concern. And, we'll get into it in a little bit, but you said something that I've really been highlighting lately, which is that knowledge role. Like, just being a domain expert anymore doesn't really exist, right? Because that domain expertise is now anybody's to have. And so you have to find those other areas to flourish. And certainly not only relationships as a great avenue for that, but it's also a way just to build human connection. So I'm really excited for this. With that being said, let's just dive in. And this first theme that we want to go into is how replaceable are you? And this is the question that everybody gets when I present on AI in sales. It's, oh, AI is going to take my job. AI in marketing, AI is going to take my job. I'm sure in your world where AI can draft contracts, it can automate your outreach, it can analyze the deals and the data. You have to be asking yourself, how replaceable am I as a human being? And where do you see relationships as that maybe insurance policy for anti-irrelevance as an individual, right? To like have that sustainability. You can't cut me because of this. What are your thoughts on that, Addison?
Yeah, dude. So you've absolutely crushed it. That is the number one scare for knowledge professional workers like lawyers, accountants, all those groups of folks that have just relied on a unique specialty that they know something that other people don't and being able to apply that, right? Like we've always relied on that and we've been able to charge good money for it. But that's
Mm,
all changing. So 18 months ago, when people talked about AI, it was like, okay, yeah, that thing that can do the thing, but it does it wrong, right? All right, great.
yeah.
12 months ago, it was like, oh, that thing that can do like a little bit of stuff, right? It still can't pass the bar exam. Okay. Today, AI is like, if you're not incorporating AI into your practice, you're doing all of your clients or your business a disservice. And
Mm,
so what your initial question, my never lacking confidence answer is like, I'm fully irreplaceable in ways because I've built that insurance policy on top of the knowledge base that I have. So not
mm,
only do I have the training as a lawyer, but I've got that insurance, that backup side where you've got these relationships that have been cultivated over days, weeks, months, some of them
mm,
even years that I've been working on relationships I didn't know would be business relationships. That I was just talking to someone, at a restaurant. I was talking to someone at a friend of a friend's wedding. You're just going out and you're being yourself and being truly authentically you, and that turns into the know like and trust model that so many sales and marketing and just business relationships really take off from. So if you
mm,
stay in that knowledge lane and you sit there and you say, hey, I'm a lawyer, I can't be replaced by AI, you're getting
mm,
replaced by AI. And it's not
mm,
fully, but someone should be ringing the bell in your ear. If you are toward the end of your practice, you're not overly concerned with it. But man, people like us that are in the early to mid part of their career, like you've got to be adopting these new
mm,
AI pieces, but it's not just AI. If you just treat yourself as this person who does the work and doesn't build the relationship, doesn't lead from the front, you're going to get left behind every single time. So that's one of the pieces that I've brought in. I didn't jump into this role to be a lawyer and the person who goes out to, conferences, to all these different expos, right? Like naturally, I'm a little bit more, quiet. I like a small group of friends, but I've built onto that. It's about adapting to the new reality where you're not just going to be this one role. You can't just sit
mm,
around because people who are getting out and are able to make those relationships, those face to face, the person, like this conversation doesn't happen with AI. It could,
mm,
but it wouldn't be as interesting because every bit of it's going to be regurgitated. Some of it may be hallucinated, which could happen here too. But
mm,
nonetheless, man, it's about creating that pocket of relationships or a secondary skill that is irreplaceable. So I'll trim back my statement. I earlier said, like, hey, I'm totally irreplaceable. That's not true, right? But it'll take a lot more effort to replace me now. And it would be really difficult to do it with just one person. So there'd be a tough
yeah.
business justification.
Well, I want to kind of double click on a couple of things that you said in there, and I think the first is that, in my opinion, AI is not coming to replace an individual's job, but it is coming to replace the person's job because I'm going to use AI and I'm going to take your job, right? Like somebody who is using AI to be more efficient and to be more effective and to get themselves in rooms is going to be a better person to hire. And the example that I want to give, we were down in January, we were down in Dallas for the Aflac National Sales Convention, and we were given a presentation from Velocity on AI in sales. And we asked everybody there what your favorite tool for sales was. And everybody was like, face-to-face meetings and phone calls and emails. And they were saying all these great things. And there was a little podium, and I kind of jumped off the podium. And I looked at 150 people. We did 4 sessions, 150 people each. I looked at all of them. I said, I would not be here if I did not vehemently agree with you that face-to-face meetings, the phone call, and really good email are what make salespeople great. I would not be here if I didn't believe that having the understanding of what your client is going through or potential client is going through and how you can solve it, if that wasn't more important to me, I wouldn't be here. Now, if I tell you that I can cut 5 hours out of your week and automate a couple of prospecting tasks with AI to give you 5 hours back in your day to be in person, face to face, on the phones, or actually doing solution finding, would you not sign up right now? And I really believe in 100%, right? And each of those sessions, there was skepticism until that commentary, right? Because I think the view of AI, and I just want to set the record straight because we're going to talk about this for 25 more minutes. Like, so much of the view of AI is like, oh, it's this all encompassing, most magnificent thing in the history of the world. And it's like, that's not how I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it as like, it can give me 25 new companies to prospect each week, and it will tell me who to reach out to, and it will tell me what angle I should go after. That was work I was doing in 2021 for 9 hours a week. And now it's 30 minutes a week. Right. And that's what I am talking about. So I want to give you a second to add any color or context to that, because I got really excited, but I do have one other call out that I need to bring back to your original answer. But anything you want to add to my emotional rant?
Yeah, I love the emotional rant because honestly, it's the same thing that I really like to push forward too. Is AI is not here to replace what you're doing, your job. It's here to assist you and do the stuff like honestly you don't want to do. If AI was doing all of our laundry and dishes, nobody would be complaining about AI, right? But people have this stranglehold. They want to do their spreadsheet by themselves. They want to type in all this stuff instead of connecting your Gmail account to your Drive, to your Slack, and just having this knowledge base that just assists you. So you're 100% right, Alec. It's one of those things where it's like, as a salesperson or as a lawyer, even, you view your time as money. And so if you can save more time and go make more money, then your average dollar per hour goes up, and you've had to do nothing extra except for maybe a little bit of prompting here, maybe a little bit of Claude, some Chat GPT, Grok, whatever your guilty pleasure is. But you're 100% right on that, and I'm with you.
Well, and I think you alluded one more time to the point that I need to make, which is we love to look busy, and we love to, I've got so much to do and I'm doing these things. And when you talk about making yourself irreplaceable, to me, it's like this conversation is no different than it was 15 years ago when we went from doing things, hey, I always joke in the life sciences that innovation for them is like getting to 2005, maybe, not 2025. But when we went from doing clinical trial records in pen and paper to just using an online platform, right? Like, there's always been innovation. This AI is different. You being irreplaceable or not, like, I don't want to go to the old adage of like the personality hire, but if you're able to be connected, this was a trait that we should have been teaching and building for decades. And I think the businessman and businesswoman of old know that and pride themselves on it. And unfortunately, I think our generation, those born between 85 and 97 or 81 and 97, whatever that millennial is, and then Gen Z, certainly, it was just not taught in this same capacity how important relationships are to your happiness at work, to your stability at work. Like, but even forget the replaceability factor, just pure play. Like, do I want to show up at work in a remote workplace and I don't know anybody here? Like, this has always been the case. I think we just lost it somewhere along the way. And now AI is like muddying the waters. But to your point, like these relationships really are everything.
And it's funny the way that you talk about our millennial generation, Alec. And one of the other pieces that factors into this, and this I hate to reference back, but it's just like when COVID happened, right?
Mhm.
Everyone of years past that was already working for years knew that, like, hey, being in person, like going and meeting with all these people, like this is how you create relationships. Go get involved in your local Rotaract, go get
Yep.
involved in all these local groups. And man, for us, it was like you came through and then it was like bang, COVID. You can't leave your house. You can't do
Yep.
anything. Everyone's transacting business strictly online. My company went fully online once COVID happened. No,
Hmm.
like we still have physical offices that, some folks still go every day, but now we hire nationwide, worldwide. And it's like,
Hmm.
it's just a very different upbringing in the workplace for folks like us. Gen Z
Yeah.
has an even better advantage where this is their norm, right? Like
Yeah.
this is how people build relationships now. And we're caught in this funny place of, everyone who's successful before us from a different generation, they went out there, they were shaking hands, they were kissing babies, doing all the stuff that they naturally say, hey, this is how you're successful. And
Mm.
then we have this massive point where it just flips on its head and it's like, well, I can't do that for like 3 years now. So what do we do?
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
Gen Zers come through and, you know, the Gen Zers do the Gen Zer stuff, but I love them.
Yeah.
Um, but they, when they hit the workforce, this was the norm. But for us,
Yes.
we got this
Absolutely.
flip on its head just randomly in the middle of it when we're supposed to be building early stages of our career, building those relationships. And then all of a sudden, we're all locked in our houses and no one knows what's happening. So
Yeah.
I don't want to blame COVID for that. And I don't want to blame millennials as a generation for that because we're better than that. But
Yes.
it had a substantial impact, especially on that person to person relationship. So you are in a point now, though, where if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer and you're extremely good at those in person, those face to face conversations
Mm.
and actually being a real person over not just Zoom, not just Meet, not just Teams, you
Yeah.
can become that irreplaceable person. It's just a matter of if you want to take the time to go out and meet those people, you may have to go to where they go. For me,
Yeah.
that means on Wednesday, I fly out to Las Vegas because we have someone to meet with out there for 2 different events we're hosting. So I'm going out there and talking to
Mm.
people. We could do it just like we're doing now, Alec, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's pretty hard to eat dinner over Zoom. So I would
Yeah.
much rather go there in person and try and kindle those relationships better.
Well, it's also just a commitment, right? Like
Yeah.
again, when you talk about the no like trust factor, but it's also the intentionality, right? Like you have to go out of your way and think about even when I was graduating college and in journalism, like almost every day I was getting coffee with somebody. Like I was trying to build sources and you build these relationships and you get coffee with somebody, you get coffee with somebody, you grab somebody a beer. Now it's like if you ask somebody to get coffee, it's like, is everything okay? Like, are we all right? Right. Like it's a completely different landscape. And so I do think you have to be intentional about your time. To your point, right? You can't replace connection. You and I have connected over Zoom over and over again. But if you want that next level of relationship, to your point, it is going to a conference or going to a client event or hosting your own event. And that's something that on the sales side, like I really take a lot of pride in. Me going down to Florida for 3 days for a conference and just sitting there and having 12 coffees and having 25 conversations with people, that's worth my weight in gold, right? Like from a time investment money standpoint, like me being there can really separate. So I want to pause here or at least pivot and ask everybody's hearing this and probably saying, sure, like relationships, yep, they make sense, right? And I think I
Right.
told you about our co-founder Dan Silver wrote the book on the true competitive advantage, which is relationships and taking the DISC style of personality and applying birds to them and all this stuff. But you've talked about relationships and physical relationships being a competitive advantage. And I think there's this asterisk that has to be applied of like, well, I'm doing it because I've got good intentions, but I also know it's going to give me a competitive advantage. So can you just kind of walk through why you see it as a competitive advantage and then how you balance, like you still have to give, right? Like you're giving your time, you're giving value, you're giving your thoughts, not expecting that in return, because otherwise people might see through the cracks and say, Addison's just doing this to try to get something.
Exactly. You have to approach it with the right intention, just like you said, Alex. So for me, being in person is there's ways to exist, and then there's ways to show up for other people, right?
Yep.
You can exist on a Zoom call, you can show up on a Zoom call, but it's a lot easier for me in person to show up and bring that extra level of excitement, do something spontaneous. For example, if I'm in Omaha, Nebraska right now versus Birmingham, Alabama, I say, hey, we wrap this podcast. Let's go get a bite to eat on me. Like, would love to do that. Let's go, I'd love to go with you to pick up your daughter from daycare or anything like that, right? Like personal touches on the relationship side. Like I genuinely believe that it leaves the opportunity for spontaneity and for things just to evolve naturally. Like it's been happening for years before people started getting together. And bringing that back, especially with generations that are older than you and I, that means something to them, because not only does it take time out of your workday, I've got a wife and a kid at home, and I love being around them. That is my favorite thing to do. I like to go downstairs whenever I'm off of work, throw my son in the air, play with them. We eat dinner together as a family. So if I cut out three nights of my time to go travel somewhere, people know that the impact that is on me and what I do by like leaving that behind. So it's a commitment, man. It's all about it's about investing, and you don't have to win. I say when. Every little investment you make doesn't have to be a business investment in and of itself. It can be purely because like, hey, you want to help this other person out. It's not always just a self-centric, like, what am I getting out of this? If you go into it with that mentality, man, you're never going to develop the right relationships. You're never going to end up in a situation where both of you guys are happy because of the business you're doing together. Because if you're looking out for number one all the time, man, that means that they're not going to feel the love that you should be showing and creating that relationship and building it. So for me, being in person is a massive investment, because I'm very clear to people that I work with, clients, partners, vendors, like my favorite thing to do, I love working from home, because my kid is 30 seconds away at any time that I want to go out and hang out with them. If you have a tough day, you know all about it. You can go, you can love on them a little bit, and your day instantly gets better. But when you travel on the road and you go and see those other people, man, it's something like, I'm not in my necessarily like my happy place, being in my little cave with my family and getting to go on walks with them after work. I'm dedicating that time because I want to be very intentional with that time. So it's also a really good thing for, a young parent, if you have the ability. Doing those kind of travels too also helps you, because one, you realize what you miss at home whenever you get up in the morning, you don't have that person to talk to. It's just it's almost like a reset in a lot of ways, especially for those of us who work from home. So for me, there's so many benefits to showing up in person, but you have to do it at the right time. If you force it, it's not going to feel right. Like if you force it and you're mad about it, like that's not the right way to be about it. You just have to go, let the conversation take its place. There's times where I've flown, across the country and gotten nothing out of it. Like I said, hey, let's have dinner. We went and had dinner, and I was like, okay, maybe I wouldn't do that again, but that's okay. You learned, you tried something new. You met with people you didn't know before. And who knows, maybe 5 years down the line, that person approaches you and just wants to have dinner again. And you're like, okay, we can do it again.
Yeah. It's so much of this is kind of that staying curious, right? And just being willing to, I don't want to say put yourself out there necessarily, because I think that that almost belittles what we're talking about to a degree, but it's just being that potential partnership across the board, right? Like our CEO at Velocity, Dave Feckman, in my opinion, is one of the best I've ever seen at just being able to identify how he can help somebody. Like, hey, oh my gosh, so-and-so, I actually know them and I can introduce you, and I'm willing to do that. Like, I'll go out of my way to do it. And he always talks about a partnership starts with us wanting to give, and me as a person wanting to give. And, you've talked about over delivering in the past. And, I've had a couple of guests on at the CEO level talk about under promise, over deliver, under promise, over deliver. And this concept of value add doesn't really make sense to them. And you've kind of pushed back on that as well. And I think Dave, although he has never pushed back on it, I think he feels very similar, which is I'm just going to over deliver right out of the gate. And I'm curious what led you to that, and maybe give us a little bit more context on that before we get into some rapid fire leadership questions here, Addison.
Would love to. So if you're anywhere near my company's community, the ClickFunnels community, you will know that we are led by our fearless leader, Russell Brunson. And I started working with and for Russell almost 5 years ago now. And my perspective on how to serve people has completely changed in that time. It sounds super cheesy. I would tell this to Russell. I would tell it to anyone at our company and they would get it. Like, he views that his position here was to come and serve entrepreneurs. And that's why he created the software that he did. For me, I'm here to serve other groups, individuals. I'm trying to figure out how I can support other people in their endeavors. And that's what I genuinely love doing it. It's so much fun. It's, as a lawyer, a lot of times, you get a bad rap because it's, lawyers, money hungry, greedy, whatever it may be. But you can also give very generously to people, not just financially, but with your time, with your knowledge, with your expertise. And so I was able to do that prior to taking on the role for Chief Partnership Officer, just as my General Counsel role. But also now that I have the Chief Partnership Officer, I have a really unique skill set and ability where I can help newer entrepreneurs or smaller companies. Hey, I think our software will benefit your users in this way. Here's how I think we can help you improve what you're trying to get to, which is, whether it's revenue, ARPU, whatever crazy, spaghetti letter name you want to throw out there. But it's really neat to be able to do that. And there was, I think it was when I was in private practice. So I worked at a larger law firm. We had about 250 attorneys. I say larger for the South, but, I loved working there. Great people, great work. But their position was always, you must tell the client how you're a value add. And so I was hammered into my brain since I left law school. I was like, how do I be a value add? How do I spend less time and have better output for the client? But joining ClickFunnels and listening to Russell Brunson was, hey, you can, like, value add is an expectation. Like, you're supposed to add value, right? Like, that's the bare minimum. Dude, if you're meeting the bare minimum, then why are you going out and making all these relationships? Why are you spending all that time if you're not going to just be like, wow, that dude he's serious. Like, he's doing some cool stuff. And so for me, Russell's always said, is it cool if I over deliver? He always says that from stage, and I love it. And when he says it, like, the whole room goes quiet because that's his thing. And everyone's like, how is Russell about to blow my mind? So I've internalized that for the partnership side. Is like, what can I do that people aren't expecting? It can be the smallest thing, Alec. I had a partner on the phone the other day and we were chatting, and he mentioned about his daughter and what she was into, like ballet and all this stuff. And I was like, let me see if there's like a Disney on Ice or something that's in town near them soon. And so I found it. It was in Dallas. I ripped a gift card and was like, hey, here are tickets. I don't want you to have to do it, but here it is if you want. And got him a gift card to Disney on Ice. He said he took his daughter and it was the coolest thing ever. And that's all she'll talk about. But you know what? For me, like, knowing that, one, I love that. Like, anything that we can do to, like, give back to the younger generation is like the greatest thing to me, and I love it. But for him, like, being able to treat his daughter to that experience and knowing that I was able to benefit and provide that opportunity just without prompting, that's something that they'll always remember. And so it's about being, if you look to over deliver, that's how you can become unforgettable and be somebody that others look to be in a room with and look to do business with. It's a simple concept, but so many people get it wrong, man. They walk into a room, hey, how do we do this? It's not just a big fancy steak dinner. Like, it's not money. It's thoughtfulness. It's listening to what they love doing, what they enjoy doing, and making a note of it in your head so that when they think you don't remember it, you bring it up 2 years later and they're like, oh, how'd you know that? And it's like, hey, you told me that in August of 2024, like when we were having coffee at, this place. And dude, it never ceases to amaze. So it's a great thing to be a value add, but that's the minimum expectation now. Nobody's going to do business with you if you're not adding value. But they want to build relationships with people who consistently over deliver. It's not even under promise and over deliver. It's like promise the expectation at the very minimum plus a little, and then over deliver as much as you can on top of that.
Mm. Hell yeah. I will, that will be a snippet that I'll pull out on LinkedIn, and be sharing, because, I love this concept. One of my favorite sales authors, Anthony Iannarino, in his books talks about the 4 levels of partnership. And level 1, you're super transactional. Level 2, you're a vendor. Level 3, you are, closer to a strategic partner. And level 4, you're a part of the team. And they're calling you because their kid failed high school algebra and are pissed off today, and they want to just talk about it. Or they're calling you about something else that's happening in the business, and what's going on in their lives. That their kids have a hockey game this weekend. So I love that. And that's, again, you can fire a vendor any day of the week. You don't fire a strategic partner, right? You don't fire that extension to the team. So fantastic answer. I love it. I've got 4 rapid fire questions for you.
Let's do it.
Because we took 20 minutes to figure out how to unmute your microphone, we're coming here at the top of the hour. But this has been a fantastic 36 minutes thus far. Let's jump in. 4 rapid fire questions. Then we'll close out with that final question of who we should interview next. Number 1, what is one leadership habit that you rely on every day, no matter what?
I talk about it a lot, and you'll hear it anywhere that I have a forum or an ability to speak to people. The most important thing to me is my family. It's my wife, my son, it's my siblings, my parents, those who are close to me. And so taking the lead as the leader of the household is always the most important thing to me. Make sure that I'm helping guide what we do as a household and being there. It doesn't mean I make every decision. Don't get me wrong. Love you, babe. But there's a big leadership component to it. And it's getting up in the morning and bringing my wife coffee. I love doing that. Like that is my number one thing when I'm out of town. She either won't make it for herself, or if I've got a flight at 5 a.m., I preset the coffee when I'm out the door at 3, right? Like that's my thing. That shows the leadership. And although I weigh a lot on the decisions, the financial decisions of the house and the direction we do and strategy and stuff, I still have to remember my job is also to serve my wife and to serve my child, right? Like that's the most important thing in the world to me. And so you can be a leader by serving. And so that's my favorite thing, serving up that coffee in bed. And let me tell you, she loves it. She loves it.
I love it. I love it. Good for you, Tinley. Good for you. Question number 2, what is the most underrated skill that a leader needs to succeed today?
Humility. Easy one. This happened recently, so I'll bring it up, but when the US won the Olympic gold medal yesterday, I watched it. I freaking loved it. And especially because it was a great goalie performance. I loved it, man.
Absolutely. Connor Hellebuck, baby.
Yeah, he was the man. But it very simply put is humility, never asking someone to do a job that you wouldn't yourself do. And the biggest piece of that humility is that your teammates know that you would be the first one on the line to do it. I would never ask somebody to stay and work late if I wasn't also working late, or unless some massive circumstance came up. But you have to be willing to be in there, ground floor all the time. You're not better than any task. Funny, I learned that from my wife when I was in law school. She managed a retail store, and just regularly, I don't know what happens in retail stores, but people throw up all the time. And her statement was, I never ask another employee to clean it up. I'm paid more than the other employees. It's my duty and my job to do that so that they don't have to. And so that's always stuck with me. So again, thanks, Ten.
Oh, I love it. All right. Question number 3. What is one thing that you believe great leaders should stop doing?
Great. That's a funny one, because if you're a great leader, it's like all these attributes should be amazing, right? Great leaders should be able to they should take away micromanaging tasks. I would say that's the big thing, because as leaders, you either empower your team, but there are other great leaders that are control freaks, and that's the truth. But you see what happens is like a great leader that is great among themselves. That's great, but you're one person and there's this giant company around you, right? Everyone looks to you. What happens if you're no longer there? Who is taking that reign? This is a horrible analogy, but the cartel down in Mexico, right? They just lost
Mm.
their leader, and now there's going to be a big battle for whoever, takes top spot. And so treat your team members like team members. Make sure that they're leveling up too, and you're not pulling up the ladder behind yourself. Some people who are great leaders forget how to lead once they're at the very top. And so it's remembering your team, making sure that you are still empowering them to become the best that they can be, and give them the tools to be successful. So don't micromanage, and make sure that they are fully empowered to do whatever they want to do.
You took me on a roller coaster for that one. If you are listening to this, a couple of weeks ago, an episode came out with Jason Casarella over at CRC, Cognitive Research Corporation, all about coaching versus micromanaging. So if you're interested in that topic, make sure you listen to it. All right, last one of our rapid fire questions. What's the best leadership advice that you've ever received?
The best leadership advice that I've ever received, I'll give it as a quote. It was, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And I heard that one time and it didn't hit me at the right time. But one of my, this is funny, one of my high school teachers, ninth grade biology teacher, Tate Fisher, it's a Lou Holtz quote, the old Notre Dame head coach. And I believe there was one before him as well, but it's so perfect for leaders. It's like, hey, you can put yourself in the right position throughout your entire life, but it's not always going to happen for you. And so you have to be ready to rebound, to face whatever obstacle comes next. And it's always about picking up whatever pieces are left. Life can give you lemons. You can make lemonade. You can make John Daly's, which is my personal favorite. You can do a lot with it, right? But if the lemons are sour, you got to figure out how to make sour lemonade or sour John Daly's. Like, just move on about it. Cover it up with a little more tea and it'll be fine. But it truly is one of those things where you have to make sure that when you're putting yourself in the right position, it doesn't always work out, and you can't get frustrated and pissed all the time about it. You have to learn as a leader, how do you pick up the pieces and put the puzzle back together and make something that's awesome out of something that may suck.
Yeah, I love it. And that quote, it's the life happens to you or for you type of approach, and how you respond to it. So fantastic. We've had just an unbelievable 40 minutes here. Final question, Addison, who is one leader that you believe we should interview next? Somebody who is doing great work, understands how to build meaningful relationships, understands what it takes to be a leader in the world. Who is that individual, and who should we interview next?
I will nominate a buddy of mine from law school. His name's Nick McFerrin. He works at Signature FD in Atlanta. He is the lead advisor for a wealth management company. Nick is amazing at relationships. Don't tell him, but I take some notes at the things that he does. He knows when to swing by my house during a work trip when I'm not expecting him and bring me whiskey. What a guy, right? But he's a great person for relationships. He's great at leading from the front on that sort of stuff. Even if I haven't talked to Nick in like 5 years, it still feels like you just picked it up the next day and you just keep on rolling. So I'm going to nominate Nick McFerrin. He's a good dude.
I love it. Well, Nick, better or worse, you're going to be getting a video snippet of Addison saying nice things about you. Addison, this has been fantastic. Again, I don't think we haven't had a ton of conversations around AI because it's such an interesting topic. We've got a couple lined up just about AI within human resources, but I think all of this comes back to, what can we do at the human level to be better at work, right? How do we make work more human? How do we make work more relationship driven? And ultimately, that's the goal. So I appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise. And, if people are listening to this and they want to reach out, I'm going to send them to your LinkedIn. I'm going to send them to you individually, but you can always listen or connect with me, and I'll make sure I'll give you Addison's personal phone number. We'll make it happen. Any final thoughts, Addison, on your end before we wrap up here?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, Alec, really appreciate you having me here. One of the things that you mentioned in the intro was, in addition to my job title here, I also founded a CLE company that co-founded it with a good friend of mine. and it's called T's and CLEs. What we do is we try to bring relationships to the golf course and also make CLEs not suck. So it's a ambitious journey that we're on, but it's all about driving relationships, bringing them together. And for any of your listeners who are interested, whether in the legal profession or a legal oriented profession, or really just like a service that lawyers would want to use, love to be in touch with them. Inaugural event is going to be in April of this year, and we're going to get some really good photos so that everyone, including Alec McChesney himself, are there in 2027.
Listen, pencil me in with one of those pencils that has a bad eraser, and so that way it's basically a pen. But that sounds like a deal. Everybody listening to another episode of Activating Greatness, thank you so much. This community only exists because we have so many of you leaders who are interested in hearing these stories, telling your stories from different perspectives. So as always, if you are listening to this, let us know what you thought. Leave comments, leave a 5-star review. Say, gosh, Addison's fantastic. He's really smart. We should have him on again in 2027. And if you are listening to this and you think, hey, I should be on this podcast, or, I had somebody reach out on Friday to say, hey, my boss is one of my favorite individuals ever. She's a fantastic leader, and I think you should interview her. And we've got that one lined up here. Again, I say this at the end of each episode. Our goal was about 20 episodes in year one, and we're on pace right now to cross the 60 marker here in 2026. And we're just going to keep on rolling. I think in March, we're going to start doing 2 a week, which seems crazy to say out loud. But the only reason we're doing it is because of people like you, Addison, sharing your expertise and your time. And then for everybody listening to continue to engage and keep giving us the thumbs up that this has been fantastic. So Addison, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time on your Monday. And I know I kept you for 6 minutes too long. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Alec.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Have a great day and see you on next episode.